Peace, family. What's good? What's good? What's good? I can't show you that because I don't work for them anymore, but it's cold, man. It's cold. It's opening up or something. Shit. Welcome to World War Wrestling episode 2. I do not have any notes this time. Hello. I don't have any notes this time. I don't. I should have had notes. A good wrestling journalist has notes. I did not have notes. But I did just get done watching AEW, kind of. Sorry, I'm trying to get into this because I feel like anything that you say about AEW is going to be objectively wrong. I'm just being real with you. I don't feel like there's any way to really give genuine criticism to AEW without sounding like a hater. You just can't. It sucked. It was boring as fuck. Okay, let me give you my comparison to this. My comparison to this is that yesterday I just got done watching NXT, which is alright, you know? Again, it's like I said about Monday Night Raw. They have a formula, and their formula works. I feel like for AEW, I feel like they're individual formulas. The guys that are over at AEW have a skill set, like on the microphone. They have a move set. Okay, so I'll give you like MJF. MJF has the skill set that makes him over. You know? Looks great. He's an amazing talker. Nat 20 charisma. And I don't know. It's convincing. Daniel Bryan has the moveset. You know, like rolled a 10 for charisma. His personality is dad at cookout that doesn't need to be drunk to get into a fight. He'll just fight you for like any reason. And he's vegan, so he's gonna make a point of there not being enough vegan options at this cookout, and he's willing to fight you over that. It's over. It's convincing. And Moxley just looks like he'll beat the shit out of you. You know? Kenny Omega was probably the greatest thing that AEW has done. That the very beginning of AEW, when Kenny Omega was the belt collector, the problem with this is that they rushed it. I just pick up a bow staff? Yes, I did. I did just pick up a staff. I'll tell you this to your face. Any professional wrestler out there that doesn't like what I have to say, I will gladly say it to your face. I will gladly sign a contract and do what we gotta do. I feel like AEW broke Kenny Omega. I just feel like AEW is extremely unsafe, and it's kind of set this kind of precipice for itself where lot of it is ECW. A lot of it is GFW. And a lot of it is Impact Wrestling. And I feel like when you have enough money as a kid to kind of just go through toys, not to say that that's what Tony Khan did or not, but when you have the ability to not really care about material objects and you're scripting this stuff, I remember, I won't talk about Tony Khan. At least I'll talk about Tony Khan in the sense of trying to like relate to Tony Khan. That I remember being younger and my godbrother forgot his Hawk toy over my house. Now, I knew this toy was not mine, so I did try to take care of it, but it did not look like he was coming back for that toy anytime soon, so I beat the hell out of the Hulk. I mean, like, the Hulk was in every finishing move. I had a Trunk stall, so Trunks and the Hulk were fighting. Sometimes they were teammates. You know, I know what it's like you're trying to cast this show inside your head, and you're doing this with pretend things, and you can break these toys, and you either have more toys that you can play with, or in Tony Khan's case, he probably got bought toys. Now, you fast forward 30, 40 years in life for Tony Khan. Now he's doing this with people. And his people are breaking I felt like when Ray Phoenix broke his arm, you could say it was a fracture or whatever, but when Ray Phoenix broke his arm on national television, that was when Luchasaurus specifically broke Ray Phoenix's arm. That was kind of the point of no return for me with AEW. And that was a while ago. I feel like that was almost a year ago. But I keep watching. I watch everything every week. But I just feel like with AEW, you have the wrong guys running your company. And I remember working for this restaurant, 2 different restaurants. I remember working for this one restaurant. It was a Mexican restaurant. It was owned by the son, but the father was the mentor and kind of planning everything step by step. And the son was just kind of bankrolling everything and enjoying the fact that he owned this restaurant chain. Versus this other restaurant that I worked for, in which young guy surrounded by a bunch of his friends. You know, so basically you have one restaurant that's run by a family, you know, in a top-down type of fashion that you can easily follow this top-down, you know, guideline, but it actually is ran by a family. Versus this is ran by a bunch of friends, and if you're not one of the friends, well, you don't really get any of the benefits that come with working there, you know? You get a lot of fucking attitude and pain in the ass and just bullshit that you have to deal with because you're working with fucking children who are working for a fucking child. And there's none of the real hindsight involved to say, well, you know what, I've done this 20 years ago and this didn't work. There's none of that. Because whatever most of us were doing 20 years ago, it was either like avoiding shitting in our pants or it was like avoiding puking on yourself because you got too drunk. That's all anyone under the age of 40 is doing 20 years ago. When you're 60, 70, 80 years old, you have 30, 40, 50 years to look back on and say, you know what, this might work, this may not work. You got to listen to the elders. You got to listen to that kind of guidance. And it's kind of funny to me that AEW brought on a lot of older talent and did not ask for advice. They did not, like, I feel like Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson should have been the EVPs. And the Young Bucks should have just been talent, like top build talent, but build in a way in which their roles as an EVP aren't interfering with their public image as professional wrestlers. Because let's not forget, for a good amount of this company's history, the Young Bucks have been heels. They've been complete, total douchebags. The very worst of humankind. Like, they've just been absolutely awful, intolerable, and still getting over because they control the scripting. It was completely unbearable watching the Young Bucks because it's not as if they're downplaying the fact that they're EVPs and they're taking this very humble approach to leadership, kind of like Cody Rhodes tried to exemplify and do, like Kenny Omega does exemplify and do now, that, let my talent speak for itself, but I still have responsibilities to deal with. The Young Bucks remind me of like the Clique. And I guess it's kind of interesting that Shawn Michaels and Triple H are running things at WWE right now, and the Young Bucks are running things at AEW. That might seem like a really strange equivalent to some people, but it's not as strange as Scott D'Amore and Santino Marella running things at Impact Wrestling. Why is Impact doing so well right now? TNA Wrestling doing so well right now? Why has TNA been performing so well over these years? In which it just has not gone away. Jeff Jarrett even tried to start a brand new company, and he could not replicate what was in TNA. He couldn't do it because he didn't have access to that. He didn't have control over that. He was a large part of that, and he continues to be over because he just gets how it works. I feel like it's something that can only come with time, especially seeing guys like Homicide still competing in NWA and competing at NWA at their like one of their highest levels as like the junior heavyweight champion for quite a while. I think for almost a year, if not over a year. I might be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure that he was the champion for nearly a year. He held it down. AEW is not heeding to wisdom. And it's like very quickly becoming WWE in all the worst possible ways. It's like, I was thinking about it yesterday, and what it kind of reminds me of almost is like Tough Enough. In the sense of like, if you want to be a professional wrestler, you want to live the life of a wrestler, you want to feel what it's like summer camp for professional wrestlers. It's like, I'm trying to find like a great way to like kind of put it, but it's like LARPing as a professional wrestler. It's like if professional wrestling already was not LARPing in itself, already was not live action role playing. For those that do not know what LARPing is and are not nerds, LARPing, it's fun. You should open your mind up to more things in life. But it's like LARPing as a LARPer, and that's like it's nerdy. It's really geeky. It's like AEW is the nerds wrestling. It's like it's for guys who are under 6 foot, guys who are basically cruiserweights or light heavyweights, and the big guys are just jokes. It's like the inverse of professional wrestling. It's kind of like they're just purposely trying to do the opposite of what they do in WWE for no sake other than just to do the opposite. And that's not very wise because you should at least do what works for WWE. And then on the things that do not work in WWE, you do the opposite. You don't spend all this money on production, spend all this money on presentation, spend all this money on fucking music and bullshit when you have NWA breathing right down your throat. You got Smashing Pumpkins right on your heels, and you are like one crossover away from being the new developmental talent for Impact Wrestling. You know, you tried to bury them because at the time they had Rich Swann as champion, but if Alex Shelley would have been in the driver's seat, if Moose would have been in the driver's seat, if Josh Alexander would have been in the driver's seat, Kenny Omega would not have made it through any of those guys. It's just kind of like it's not working. And there needs to be someone there to say, hey, this isn't working. You know, it's like, what do you mean it's not working? I just had the match of my life. I just had an amazing match. You know, we just had Will. It's like, yeah, when people, it's the thing that made AEW so interesting was that you never knew who was going to show up. That's really what made AEW pop. That's what made AEW like the destination to be and to tune in, is because every single episode there was somebody new. There was someone being repackaged. There was somebody, a free agent joining on. There was a brand new person. There was a guy like Nick Gage or Minoru Suzuki. You know, there was somebody. There was a guest star. There was someone coming in through this forbidden door. And I feel like once it starts getting episodic, and once you start seeing the same faces every week, and they're not stars, they're not big names, they're not recognizable, it's not something in which a wrestling mark is going to be able to look at and go, oh my God, Funny Bone was on AEW. It's like, I don't even care if Funny Bone loses. The fact that you had Funny Bone on AEW Wrestling for one night, you know, you had him on Rampage, you had him on Collision. Do something with Funny Bone. Do something with these indie stars that you had Warhorse on just to lose. It's like there was so much effort to try to get these AEW guys over that a lot of these AEW guys ended up getting injured, and then they weren't even usable. Jesus, it's like you guys are doing, it's a dangerous sport already, but I don't really feel like guys at AEW realize this isn't real. I don't think AEW trains anybody. I feel like it's just they're just LARPing as professional wrestlers. They're LARPing as a business. You know, you ever have a friend start a business and it's like halfway there? You know, it's like three quarters, maybe 1/4 of the way, like towards being a business, and the fact that he'll take your money, but they may not deliver on shit that they've actually offered you. Have you ever encountered that? Have you ever dealt with that? Um, I got stories of that. I got stories dealing with that type of thing, and that's just kind of what AEW is to me, in which it was kind of promised to be something different, and you have a guy like Lethal just jobbing out to other talents. Maybe that was a personal choice that Jay Lethal made, but I remember like texting Jay Lethal and messaging him and telling him like you're one of the greatest wrestlers like of all time. You know, and this was after like one of his Ring of Honor matches when the lights were out right before Ring of Honor went off the television. He had a match with Shane Taylor and he lost that match, but it was still one of the greatest matches he had ever had. You know, some guys are good in that kind of position of presenting an indomitable force, presenting like an incredible challenge, but you're not really balancing out. Like, there's very obviously favoritism in AEW. There's very obviously a lot of like weird white supremacist elitism inside of like AEW, in which it's making WWE look biblical and look freaking like liberal and diverse, and it's kind of weird because I think they definitely are Republicans, both the McMahons, but the McMahons are no longer like the key in the company, I guess you would say. Um, I just feel like you look at NWA and you just see how hungry everybody is. You just see like even like the brothers of construction. They have a match last night against Kratos and Odinson, and it's spectacular. Every time you see Odinson perform, it's spectacular. Every time you see Kratos perform, he is a beast. Every time you see the brothers of construction, it's like NWA isn't like presenting you with wrestlers that are giving you 1 out of 3 matches are good. Every single time they go out there, they're delivering an amazing performance. And I'm not going to say that people don't get hurt because you're going to get hurt inevitably. I think Murdoch got hurt recently, if I'm correct or not, or Mike Knox got hurt. I think it was Mike Knox that got injured. You know, that's very unfair to Trevor Murdoch, and he's very upset about that because they would have been the greatest tag team ever, especially since Trevor Murdoch and Lance Cade were a great tag team. You know, I just don't like. I don't like how many people are getting hurt at AEW, and it's only been 3 years. Maybe it's the type of thing where WWE has such a massive roster that you can't really tell when I can definitely tell that Big E is injured, and the way that Big E got injured was a complete freak accident. Um, Randy Orton got injured. That seemed a lot more deliberate, you know. Because I remember the Baron Corbin, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre days of like domination, and you know they really put beatdowns on people, but they still towed the line of reality. You know what happened to Randy Orton deliberate. Seemed deliberate. I thoroughly enjoy watching AEW, but I don't feel like the competition anymore is between AEW and WWE. I feel like NWA is a real contender for best wrestling shows. I feel like TNA is a huge contender for best wrestling shows. Even Ring of Honor is sometimes better than the main product in AEW. And I think I'm also looking at AEW Dark and Elevation, which they don't do anymore, which it really doesn't make sense why you don't do it because you own Daly's Place. I'm pretty sure the mat is set up the majority of the time. You should probably be doing as many shows as possible. You're probably doing dark mat or house matches and stuff of that nature. Um, and that's great. But I don't think there was anything wrong with Elevation or Dark. Maybe it just wasn't getting the views necessary to justify having the show, but you did put it on YouTube. And there's a lot of people that do not know what the hell AEW is. And I think maybe that's kind of like an issue within itself. Is that what CM Punk brought to AEW was a megastar. And CM Punk coming to AEW was like Beyonce working at a fucking Dairy Queen. It's Beyonce at a Dairy Queen, 9 to 5. It's still being fucking Beyonce on the weekends. She's just working at the Dairy Queen because she feels like working at the Dairy Queen. She doesn't need to be there because she's Beyonce. How do you feel like the people at the Dairy Queen are going to act? Maybe like for a day or two, but they're going to turn to haters as quickly as possible. They're going to be hating on Beyonce even if it's Beyonce at the Dairy Queen. People are going to have shit to, well, why is she even there? And I remember when the one woman was working at the grocery store to sell her cookies, and Pokemon or something like that, and people start hating on her because of that. I feel like the way that All Elite Wrestling came in this, I feel like the way that the Young Bucks have portrayed themselves and presented themselves, not even with the CM Punk situation, I just mean them themselves as like heels. I would have, that was the worst decision that they ever had made. I feel like if they had done things in reverse, if they had been baby faces pre CM Punk and then they turned heels after CM Punk, if like that would have been incredible. I think going from heels and doing absolutely nothing to actually be baby faces other than say, hey, it would be good for PR if we were baby faces now because we look really fucking unprofessional. Sketchy. Sketchy as fuck. Comes across as sketchy. I feel like the Young Bucks are the biggest problem in AEW. And I think that there are a lot of people who are making their way as stars. I feel like Orange Cassidy is kind of like bearing a lot of the weight right now for AEW. But man, you couldn't have picked like a worse gimmick to fucking just like carry a company on is a guy that can't cut a fucking promo. And you don't have anyone there to cut promos for him. It's like if you weren't misusing Trent and Chucky D, then you would probably be far more over Orange Calf. You can make Orange Calf the main champion and it would be so over. But Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, I want them to be champions. I want them to like. I see it. I see you give Chuck D is like fucking Manders with more muscles. The one called Manders, he is like Manders with more fucking muscles. You give this man a light beer and a fucking cowboy hat and some boots, you have a reasonable fucking threat. You give this guy a suit and a tie, you call him the Southern Gentleman, you got a fucking threat. Him in his fucking singlet, looking like someone's drunk uncle, he should be winning more matches. He's like a skinny Eddie Kingston. And if the only thing about Eddie Kingston is that he has the extra like muscle and weight on him to like put some weight in that hurricane, then Chucky D should definitely be a tag team threat. But it's like you have so many people on the roster that when you see them, you know that they're going to lose. And when they win, it's a surprise. And that's not how it's supposed to be. What is the point of you counting wins and losses if you have a scripted fucking promotion and you can schedule people to win? I know it's not just me. I know it's not me. You have some people that have never won a match. You have people like Angelico and Serpentico that come out. And if you remember Angelico and Lucha Underground, this guy is legit. You have him. Because I guess the thing is like creative freedom, and this is what these guys choose to do. And it's hard to go gimmick by gimmick, wrestler by wrestler, and be like, hey, this isn't fucking working. Because there are a lot of things that they're doing that is working. I love the color green. Stop fucking dancing. Do different dances. Do more than one dance. Have better music to dance to. I can give it to you all day. I can give it to you all day. Have Serpentico win a few fucking matches. You have guys, Serpentico size. Fuego del Sol left for some fucking reason. Probably because he didn't want to sell his goddamn soul, to Tony Khan. But man, working for Tony Khan is not better than working for the McMahons or the other Nick Khan. It's it's professional wrestling, man. It's professional wrestling. And you're doing it because you hope that it's going to build into a better career and that you're going to be able to go into movies and things of that nature. But if you're not doing it to eventually get into movies, if you're not doing this to eventually go into politics, if you're not doing this to invest into a business or invest into a brand or invest into a product or a service or some software with the money that you're getting or some real estate, do you honestly genuinely expect to be wrestling forever? Because even a lot of the guys that are wrestling right now, older in their life, a lot of them are wrestling because they took time away from wrestling to do other things. A lot of that being like movies and TV shows. And I don't know what to tell you because these people have to be who they are. Like AEW is not going to get to where we want it to be if it keeps getting criticized, if it keeps getting beaten down. And I don't think what it needs is critique. I don't think what it needs is like negative feedback. I think people genuinely need to tell AEW what it's doing right. Because if all you're telling AEW is what it's doing wrong, and if Tony Khan is like an NTP, like I kind of think he is, or I think he's like an ENTP or something like that. I'm not sure if he's like an INTP, but I think he's like an ENTP. He seems like he has a neurotic personality type that if you tell him that something's wrong, he's going to like act and have the conscientiousness to fix it and do something about it and to think about it obsessively about how you can make it better. So if you're not giving Tony Khan positive feedback, I don't think he can really carry on to do what's necessary because with his like brain and how his brain, I'm like predicting how it like, because I feel like Tony Khan is a genius, So the way that I think that his brain works then, being a fellow genius, is that there has to be a high level of neuroticism there that if you're not giving him positive input, he can't obsess over what's positive and find more ways to give you that positivity and give you what works. If you give him what's negative, he can only come up with multiple ways not to repeat the same mistake. And I feel like he needs to go through that as a booker, as a business owner, as a man. I feel like he needs to go through that period of, I can't do this, 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 I can't do this. This doesn't work, this doesn't work. It's going to be a lot of that rejection. It's going to be a lot of no's. It's going to be a lot of criticism. But a lot of this on AEW does work. And honestly, the real problem is the AEW fans. The people that call themselves fans of AEW are honestly the biggest issue with AEW. Because you have WWE diehards that will literally never say anything negative about WWE ever in anything that goes on. These people are marks. They go crazy. They go crazy for fucking Akira Tozawa. They do. You see it. I see it too. They go crazy for our truth. They are trained and conditioned. AEW's fans are the wild, wild west. And it's like a cross between highbrow snobs of professional wrestling, like Excalibur, and fucking marks. Marks who love Darby Allin. This kid's gonna fucking kill himself. And everyone is applauding it and calling it inspirational. When Adam Page was an alcoholic, you made it look tragic and dark and depressing, and we've never really seen him have more than one or two drinks. We've never seen him come to the ring drunk or anything like that. Steve Austin was drinking multiple beers in alcoholic rage. on national television. Adam Page was not Stone Cold Steve Austin. Adam Page was like a miserable bastard. How do you then make Darby Allin look like a hero? Doesn't make any fucking sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense. What the fuck are we teaching the kids? Drinking is bad. Fucking throwing yourself out of a fucking plane without a parachute is cool. You know, here's a fucking car. There's Darby Allin. Here's he crashing into a house. And the horrible thing is that I hope that Darby Allin never sees this because he might fucking do it. Jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Well, there was that one woman that landed in the grass and she survived without a parachute. And then he's gonna kill himself. Darby Allin was fucking Gigi Dolan. So that's why he's doing this. That's why he's doing this. Because if you lost Gigi Dolan, you would try to kill yourself too. If you were dating Gigi Dolan and you lost Gigi Dolan, you would probably try to kill yourself on a daily basis as well. Stop Darby Allin. Because he's only doing this because of Gigi. He's not doing this because he's doing this for Gigi Dolan. He's not doing this for any other reason. Stop Darby Allin. You know, he's too young to fucking kill himself. He's too young and too small. You know, I just like, I want to like AEW so bad. I want to love it so bad. But it's like, you make professional wrestling look dangerous. I don't know, like, I don't know how else to like really put it. Like you make professional wrestling look dangerous, and it's like it is dangerous. But like you have guys like Jon Moxley, who like you have to know who these people are. You can't have Blackpool. I feel like Blackpool Combat Club basically just took over AEW, and now they're just trying to kill everybody. I feel like they were sent there by Vince McMahon to destroy the business. And I feel like that's exactly what they're doing. None of them had any good reason to go over to AEW. They just didn't. None of them didn't. Jon Moxley was one of the biggest stars at WWE. He's still one of the biggest stars in AEW. And I guess what he said is that he wanted to become the company's ace. And Seth Rollins is definitely the ace of WWE. You know, so that was never going to be Jon Moxley. It was going to be Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. So he knew that, he accepted that, and he went somewhere else to become the most credible threat to Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins. But I'm pretty sure that if Dean Ambrose got the opportunity to go back to WWE and to wrestle one of the two, he would take it. He only left because they put him inside of a Bane mask. That was it. There was no other reason. Daniel Bryan left because they didn't want him to kill himself. And what is he doing at AEW? He's getting his eyeballs popped out and his arms broken. So WWE was right. What about Cesaro? He's still boring. I don't know what to tell you. And they're controlling the company, and then you have them on like Ring of Honor too, and now they're polluting the mind of Wheeler Yuta went from the greatest wrestler in AEW's roster to being surrounded by a bunch of racist white men who are just utilizing him like a bunch of like neo-Nazi skinheads. That's really just kind of how I see the interaction is like Blackpool Combat Cup just kind of reminds me of the SS neo-Nazis and the way that they worked with Japan during World War II. That's what I see every time I see Blackpool Combat Cup. And I hate it. I hate it. I don't like it. And the fact that they're controlling so much of AEW, it's just like, I don't feel like anyone really stands a chance in AEW. If Blackpool Combat Club and the Young Bucks are going to be the authority figures in AEW, nobody on that roster stands a chance. Because you have a bunch of guys who just weren't going to get over in WWE. Like, even in their highest moments of getting over in WWE, it was never near the level of CM Punk or Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. It was never going to be that. They were never going to be megastars. And, for a lot of people, I feel like they can accept that, and they just make the most of it. But I feel like when you're dealing with a psychopath like Jon Moxley or kind of like a narcissistic personality type like Daniel Bryan, then you're just kind of like in extremely dangerous territory because their idea of where they are and their idea of where they're supposed to be and their idea of what they have to learn. I find the entire, unless it was scripted, I find the entire relationship between Daniel Bryan and The Miz so ironic. Because if Daniel Bryan would have learned from The Miz and learned how to use the microphone to learn how to talk, he would not have his arms broken and his eyeballs broken right now. He would be able to talk up a match and talk up a rivalry and talk up a feud without just yelling at people and calling them cowards and weak and all that kind of stuff. He would actually be able to leverage his personality to hype up a match, and I don't think Daniel Bryan has that capability because he never learned it. Instead, he mocked The Miz, and The Miz is getting paid, and he wrestles every once in a while. He's not injured. His average sized balls. But I feel like if Daniel Bryan could have got on the same page with The Miz, you would be seeing a much different product in AEW right now because you would understand the movie star quality. It's ironic that Daniel Bryan called Kofi Kingston a B-plus player when in reality, it always came across as insecurity. Because Kofi Kingston was always far more naturally athletic and gifted than Daniel Bryan was. In every way, shape, or form. It always came across as jealousy. So when I found out that Daniel Bryan was the head of the committee to get rid of CM Punk, even that felt 100% like jealousy. Because Daniel Bryan was never in his lifetime ever going to be the star that CM Punk was. And he never had been. Never. He was never the CM Punk. I feel like Moxley has that potential if he took a break, he repackaged himself and he came back, kind of like a sober veteran type of thing. But I feel like Jon Moxley is kind of nearing the end of everything. He seems mentally and emotionally off. I don't want to say Chris Benoit-esque, but he seems just kind of in and out of it. I don't know him personally. I'm just seeing him on TV. And he's, honestly, he's always fucking been. He's always fucking did that shit. So maybe it's just his fucking gimmick. Maybe there's nothing to worry about. But I'm not Jim Cornette. You didn't come here to listen to me talk for an hour. But I probably could. But this was World War Wrestling. Peace out. See you later.